In news from the self-own department, Republican Congressman of Wisconsin, Glenn Grothman, was on C-SPAN's Washington Journal decrying Democrats for voting against a Republican plan to require proof of citizenship to vote, namely because it's already illegal and does not happen. But more on that later. In fact, no one makes the case clearly that there is no evidence that non-citizens are voting than Glenn Grothman himself. Take a look.
You have to ask yourself, why did all but 3 Democrats vote against a provision yesterday that you have to prove that you're a citizen before you vote? I mean, isn't that a bizarre vote to take? But that is sadly where the Democrat Party is right now.
What's the evidence that it's happening? Where have you seen that?
Well, I haven't seen it, but we know it's happening, right?
I don't know. But Santa Claus, someone leaves the gifts under the tree every Christmas. I don't know. I hear the footsteps. So there he is being put on the spot, and he doesn't seem to have any problems with the fact that he just said, well, I don't know, but it exists. Before I kick it to you guys, you have to know that he's not the only one who said, well, I don't really know if there's evidence, but I feel it in my bones. Mike Johnson, the one who's led this charge to add what is called the SAVE Act to this funding bill that again was voted down with 14 Republicans and all but 3 Democrats opposing the bill. He said, quote, "We all know intuitively that lots of illegals, this is graphic 2, are voting in federal elections, but it's not something that is easily provable." Well, okay, so again, this is like we're supposed to have blind faith. Like we don't all believe in your God, my guy. But if your God is illegals are voting, we definitely don't believe in that. And in fact, interestingly, there has been some research into whether or not non-citizens are voting. The Heritage Foundation of all places did an analysis of legal actions regarding election conduct, found only 24 instances of non-citizens voting between 2003 and 2023. 20 years. 24 instances. A study conducted by the Brennan Center of Justice, so arguably the other side of the political aisle, analyzed 23.5 million votes across 42 jurisdictions in the 2016 general election, concluded there were 30 instances of non-citizens casting votes. 30, 23.5 million. Again, just for everyone to know, states have their way of verifying whether you are in fact a citizen. They verify voter identification information using state and or federal databases, such as the Social Security Administration or state departments of motor vehicles. They cross-reference information that the voter provides against information provided by these entities. Election administrators can ensure that identifying information submitted on voter registration forms is accurate and legitimate that way. This hinders those who may be attempting to register to vote using fraudulent or false information. And in fact, later in this Washington Journal interview, a caller calls in and says just that, says, yeah, you have to register. You can't just roll up, because he's arguing you just roll up. But no, you have to actually register. But guys, do we have to play it back, or is that just the most hilarious immediate self-own we have seen?
Yeah, like they love to say that these things are so easily provable while they never actually prove these things, right? This has been going on since Trump lost in 2020, right? He was going around saying that there's all this evidence, there's all these different examples of voter fraud happening around the country. Yeah, we have it. Yeah, we'll send it over to you. I think he said that on his call with Raffensperger in Georgia with Rudy Giuliani. And then he never got the memo. He was never emailed any kind of evidence. There was nothing presented to him. They didn't have it. But his supporters, right? As long as he says that we have it, trust me, they're like, cool, we trust you. And that's it. And this is sort of like what we were just talking about before he started the story about how Trump somehow manages to juggle his love for a Chinese dictator with his hatred for communist China. And I got to say, I think we're overthinking it a little bit. We have plenty of questions as to how he can say 2 very different things and promote 2 very incongruent ideas to his supporters. His supporters who align with both of those very misaligned ideas are not asking those questions. They just aren't. There's no way that they could possibly be asking those questions. So all you have to do whenever, one of them talks to you about something like this, just ask them for the proof, and they don't have it, right? And they'll tell you something crazy and they'll say, oh, well, Trump has never lied to me. And then you're just like, all right, that's the end of that conversation. Then they'll call you a communist because you're a leftist. the next person to call you a communist, ask them if they can define communism, and then tell them whether or not you're that. Like they can't do it.
Yeah. So let me tell you how this works. There's a cycle that's involved here, and it's really interesting. And it's not just about this lie. It's about almost every lie that the Republican politicians say. So what they'll say in the beginning is, well, there's no evidence, but intuitively, everyone knows that it's happening, right? So then everyone in MAGA will believe it instantly. Because remember, they have an internal bias. They think, oh, we can't possibly be losing elections. We're the real America. We have always been in charge. So we must be America. We can't possibly lose to Democrats or to minorities or to anyone else. So the minute a Republican official says, well, it must be happening, they're like, that's it, I knew it. And it confirms their bias. So then they know it forever. And then the Republican politician comes back on and goes, well, a lot of people think this, so this is a very important issue. This is a real concern because a lot of people in this country are concerned about it.
Yes.
And you'll see, by the way, guys, you'll see this exact pattern happening in future stories. This is a playbook that they have. They do it each time.
The people believe it, and it's important to the people because you put it in their heads. You're the one who told them that this is an important issue that they need to care about. It's very transparent. It's so easy to see through, and it kind of blows my mind how more people just don't see through it. And like you were saying, it's all patterns. Like nothing they do is original anymore. We've been dealing with this same type of stuff for a long, long time, but specifically since Trump entered the political arena. He has a playbook. That's why people are calling him boring right now. I've been calling him boring. I've been bored with this guy for a long time, but he has nothing new up his sleeve. Everything he does is so predictable now. And I think that's why people are leaving his rallies because they've heard it all before. He's got nothing new.
Yeah, so it's frustrating though that they believe all these things. The reason that this one time is a little bit different is because we've got at least 2 Republican congressmen, including the one we showed you on tape, saying, oh no, of course we don't have evidence, right?
I don't know.
And you have the Heritage Foundation, that's the Project 2025 guys, saying
yes,
over the course of 2 decades, it happens about once a year. There's 330 million people in the country. How could one person swing an election? And the other thing you have to remember is that they imply, oh, the Democrats are bringing in illegal immigrants so that they can vote for them, and that's what's happening, and that's why they're winning elections, right? And you're like, wait, if it's one a year, what kind of plan is this? One person can't possibly swing an election. Plan. So obviously there is no such plan. The Democrats are not doing that. It's rando non-citizens that try to vote, and then guess what happens? They get caught. That's why we know about it. And it's tiny. It's one a year out of 330 million people. You know what? MAGA will hear this and go, I got you. There's one person who did it per year. That means it exists. That's what the Democrats are doing. They're bringing the mental asylum and the criminals and they're making them vote. Blah, blah, blah. No, there are no non-citizens voting. But you'll never get MAGA to believe it. For the rest of their lives, they'll think, we didn't lose. It was the undocumented immigrants Joe Biden brought in. They all illegally voted. Well, it isn't true. You believed a bunch of liars who wanted to manipulate you into hating immigrants.
Yeah, and then just lastly, I mean, what they then do, the final set piece, right, is that they legislate around the lie that they've just fabricated. So states around this country are passing laws that make it a lot harder to vote. Like you gotta show up with your passport or with, whatever, your ID, when you don't actually need an ID to vote. If you're registered, you do not. And so it is just a way to suppress the vote because they can't win anymore without cheating, even though they're spinning lies that like the other side's cheating, so we can cheat, right? And so again, it's also the anti-trans fervor follows the same pattern, or the drag queen. Oh, drag queens are grooming our children. Well, no, they're not. Well, that's okay. We're going to pass all these anti-drag laws anyway, even though all of this is based on a lie. It is to create a way to legislate themselves into having more power. And in this case, making sure that never again the people's voice is actually heard democratically.
Yeah, and here, by the way,
in Texas also, like we're always seeing different ways that they're trying to suppress the vote in Texas. That's why I say this all the time, but I feel like it doesn't get through as much as it should. It is very hard to vote these Republicans out of Texas office. They control our entire Texas government, our state government. They interfere in local elections all the time. The only way that they know how to win these elections is by cheating and by suppressing voters. They took out, voting poll booths at colleges, just all kinds of things that they're doing. I won't go too much into it, but this is their MO. This is what they do. First, they have to generate all this public support for an issue that doesn't exist. And then they say, well, they're justified in doing it because this is a big deal to the people. It wasn't before you started making it a big deal to the people.
Yeah, and last thing is, Franny said you don't need voter ID, and you say like, or photo ID. 25% of African Americans in this country don't have a driver's license because they live in the cities, or they're too poor to have it. It also applies to some white folks too that live in cities and are too poor to have a driver's license because they don't have a car, right? So disenfranchising all those people is a terrible idea. That affects millions of people. Not one person, millions of people. And if you're wondering, well, then how do you know they're actually citizens? Because you have to give your social security number. And that's what the callers told Congressman Grothman. And they're like, I'm not a Democrat, but you're lying, brother. I know, I just registered my mom. You definitely need a social security number. So that's the reality.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.